Hello, this is Rue from the Plutonian podcast. I'm here to bring you that ruthless, disturbingly shocking truth. Anyways, a lot's been happening in the world recently, and always seems like shit's getting crazier and crazier. But I think deep down, we all always knew there was something wrong. It's kind of like an internal knowing that things could be different, and uh, we could all have a different life if we so choose, because we do have free will. But it's been raining a lot here, and I've been working a lot, so I'm pretty tired. And I really wanted to get in on the live stream earlier this week, but I haven't been able to. And uh, I apologize for that. But at least once every 2 weeks, once every week and a half, anyways. But I want to let you guys know I found something pretty interesting in this book, 36 Faces. It's a book about the astrological deacons. And the astrological deacons are very cool, in my opinion, because it breaks up the zodiac into 36 sections, which is basically 360 divided by 3, 36. And it's described pretty strange. And I don't have it highlighted, but I'm just going to give you a little read from this book. It's pretty. These reads by Austin Kapik are interesting. He's done a lot of research and insight into the lore of these. After a time in Scorpio's tunnels, the desire for connection and intimacy have been alternately sated and purged, and the body, soul, and mind are now free to move as directed by the will alone. Here, the spirit encounters and eliminates resistance at varied levels of reality. The product of this process is a subordination of all layers of being to the will itself. The spirit commands, and all parts obey. In the tarot deck, the Rider-Waite version, the Eight of Wands, titled Swiftness, governs the sign. The Eight of Wands is unique among the cards given to the deacons in the Rider-Waite deck, in that is the only one without the representational figures. Only the triangular Eight of Wands are pictured, slicing through the card at a diagonal. There is thus a level of abstraction to the speed pictured here. It is the speed of an idea or vision, the velocity of imagination. And that's kind of what's been really happening, is like people's imaginations, I feel, have been used in a malefic way. I don't think that people's imaginations are what they used to be, and that they're being utilized as they should be, because as you know, what you can hold in your mind and focus on will become, if you have that willpower and determination. And that's what this symbol means. It's the poisoned arrow. But it also has some other interesting symbolism and associations. So let me continue. Thus, in the first decan of Sagittarius, a vision erupts. The ideal self, the half-divine hero, appears, composed entirely of spirit fire. To see that is to be moved by it. It is the shape of one's spirit. It takes shape as one's spirit enters the mind, and imprint from this image, a story unfolds, a quest, a target, a driven myth. The fire that enters the mind inflames it, purging the grosser levels of being as it descends. In this deacon, scenes of the swift transport of the body and mind arise. Through its power, one is moved in accordance with the vision. Vehicles arise to convey the will. Horses and chariots, 7 leagues and clouds, striding boots and magical horseshoes appear. The body, the will, the bow itself. Those seen in this deacon move with analogous ardor towards the realization of their goals. like an arrow or a bullet. None can sway them once they have their will in motion, though each of their flights must eventually end. And that's what I feel is happening right now with this this whole single-mindedness of the people that are making it harder on our lives. Some people, I think you guys know, the ones that are forcing the poisoned arrow onto us. Let me continue. So there's a book, another book that represents this symbol. It's called the Yavana Jataka. It is a man whose bow is drawn and whose speed is as violent as horses. The vehicle mentioned as well for is said to have knowledge of chariots. And then in the book, the 36 heirs of the zodiac, with the daimonies of plague. Now, this is what gets me. They start talking about plagues. Through the attribution of diseased spirits seems, though the attribution of diseased spirits seems inappropriate at first, consideration reveals that it speaks to the very heart of this deacon's dynamic. So now he starts talking about disease. When one does not direct their own vehicle, one's vehicle can be commandeered by another spirit. The daimonies of plague, now called viruses, are hijackers who utilize bodies as vectors for the propagation of their own simple primal will. Without a driving will, all of one's vehicles are likely to be hijacked. Just as the body is vulnerable, so too are the emotions and the mind. Thus, this deacon also contains the secrets of propaganda which infect the psyche. Mastery of the processes reveals here inoculate one to the pestilences of the mind and body and offer ability to infect others with their spirit. This power has malefic qualities, but there are also a very positive spirits one can be infected with, such as enthusiasm. Those who walk with this deacon can be the vehicle of various plagues to the degree that they have not attained and accepted a vision of their own true will. The symbols for this deacon, the arrow, the chariot, and the virus, are all defined by their capability of movement, but also their potential for violence. Agrippa's image in the 3 books of occult philosophy attest to this. For he pictures simply a man armored with a sword, adding, the operation of this face is for boldness, malice, and liberty. The energy patterning of this deacon is linear and ruthless. The arrow spares none in its path. The essence of this deacon entails the swift emergence of a motivating vision and the attainment of a vehicle to move towards the pictured goal. The necessary movement may be of a mental, spiritual, or physical nature, and the vehicle must therefore be one suited to the realm. So that's from 36 Faces, The History, Astrology, and Magic of the Deacons by Austin Kappick. This is an old book. Good luck getting one. They don't print it anymore as far as I know, but that's kind of the crux of the situation, is that what's been happening in this world with the disease of the COVID and the reaction that people's imagination of this plague is nothing more than a state-funded media campaign that has every single politician and every single media, because they've literally recorded or declared war on the virus, and at the same time declared war on humanity, because we all carry viruses or whatever is said to be viruses or exosomes. I don't care what these microscopic things are, but if they aren't man-made, then they're natural natural. And how could you ever eliminate something that's natural just because it seemingly poses a threat? What people imagine is just that. It's just what they imagine, and it's kind of crazy. But I digress. And I'd like to read from the Bible even a quote. Give me a second here while I look it up. But the things that come out of the mouth come from the heart, and these make a man unclean. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, and false testimony, and slander. This is Matthew 15:11. And it's just interesting because the only people that are allowed to speak these days are the politicians and the media. You could never have a government this large that will actually work. And there's a man that I listen to, Mr. Legal Man. He goes on about this all the time on his podcast, The Quash. And his main solution is decentralize, right? Let's decentralize this government. It's gotten too big and it's obviously out of control because of what it's doing. Now, my idea to this decentralization is to use a blockchain for voting. If you want this to be a democracy of voting and the consensus and consent of the people by the people, the only way you could really do that is with a blockchain voting system with some, I don't know. I mean, honestly, that's a slippery slope in and of itself, because how would you even verify those votes without some kind of ID? And they want to hook everyone up to a digital ID anyways, which I think is part of the problem, because they want everyone hooked up to the Internet of Body and the Internet of Things. But the only way really to hold politicians accountable, I think, would be a blockchain voting system. Because this system doesn't work. Obviously, it's working perfectly if their goal is to grow the government. Again, another quote by Legal Man, because it doesn't matter what party is in power in America, the government just keeps growing and growing and growing. However, that's not what I wanted to talk about tonight. That's not all I wanted to discuss. There is a huge spiritual component to this, and I've been saying this. So what I believe is spiritually, on the spiritual level of the past 19 months, or whenever all the governments in the entire world that I know of declared a state of emergency and went along with the herd mentality, the mechanical mind, the ego, whatever it is. It was a lifting of the veil. The subconscious is now fully out in the open for everyone to see. The unconscious and subconscious mind of the superego of society, of the human society, because we've really been globalized. And the most unfortunate part is this globalization was subsequent results of American imperialism. Organized is all of our modern world, albeit people and resources such as power and food, and the most powerful is the ideology and the imagination of the people have all been harnessed because of us living in our unconscious ways, of us being driven by our subconscious motor brain system of just seeking comfort and pleasure and being satiated and entertained and ignoring the problem and using politicians and the government as just a simple excuse and tool that we identify with, just to fix our problems. And the thing is you could never actually rely on someone else to fix your problems. And humanity has these collective problems that only individuals are going to be able to fix. And everyone needs to come into their own hero's journey. But these individual problems are just things that you can change in your own life. Like, nobody is going to save the world by themselves. Nobody is going to fix everything that's wrong with the world. It's not our responsibility to fix the world. It's our responsibility to fix ourselves. But the weird thing about that is by fixing yourself, you are fixing the world because, again, you are part of the world. So you do, we do, I do. Everyone has the power to create good choices and good karma and good action. This is what we are here for, is to do the work. And really, the biggest issue is the oldest issue, and it's just a misidentification of this gross physical form for what we truly are. And people don't really recognize what they truly are. And that is one of the most difficult things for us to do, is to recognize the self. I've been slowly uncovering mine, the inner true self, the spark of consciousness that glows within. It's difficult to even articulate that awareness once you tap into it, because there isn't really any words to describe it. It's a amorphous or ethereal, abstract element to reality, which is where we come from. Actually, the darkness, but the still darkness, the presence, if you will, because that's what there ultimately is: a presence, a force, a life force, if you will, or a will, or an intelligence. These are best words, which language can't even grasp it, because language isn't really the tools of consciousness. Language is just a byproduct of consciousness. But language is also a technology. And that's why I read that quote about speaking one's heart and mind, and how that is determinant of one's trajectory. And it's really a byproduct of the thoughts that people have cultivated. And that's why it's so important for me to say healing and inspiring words, if they can be, to anybody, anywhere, at any time. If I really truly want to make a difference in this world by improving myself, then yes, I will improve the way that I articulate and the words that I put out. And that's the saddest thing, is that the people with the biggest platforms, I feel some of the people with the biggest platforms aren't doing anything but sowing seeds of destruction and darkness and chaos. The supreme justice really is found within yourself, though. And that's one of the problems, is focusing outside of yourself actually takes away from your own experience. And that's where I have been really caught up, especially the past, I would say, I don't know, about 3.5 years, anyways. But only because life has been so crazy, and I've just gone through my Saturn return, which, if you don't know, Saturn creates a entire cycle at 29 and a half years. And it said at your first Saturn return is a big deal. It's the most intense. And that's what I've been going through, and I'm just now coming out of it. But, the world's doing a lot of crazy things. And if you look at all that and all the crazy things and what the world's doing, and you become identified with the other, and the chaos and the unrhythmic, the unorganized, and just the noise, the chatter of the mind, the chatter of the unconscious and the collective, the societal sicknesses. Because if you really listen, some of the thoughts that you have aren't even your own. They're just things that have been placed into your mind. And I mean that. It's everywhere. It's in the music, it's in the TV, it's in the things. And if you let it take root inside of you, then you're going to start cultivating someone else's thoughts and desires. The kitty's coming in here, trying to, anyways. So that's why it's more important than ever, especially if you have a very busy schedule, where you have children and you have a job and you have exercise and all that, is to take a moment and just stop and sit with yourself in nature if you can. Just feel your body, connect with yourself, check in. Don't become identified with the emotions and the thoughts that run through you, because those are transient and ephemeral. Oh, pardon me. It's 9 o'clock, and I've already worked over 40 hours this week, and I'm just construction man who swings a hammer and lifts boards and such. We're building a school, actually. Funny enough, I wanted to tell this story. It was pretty funny. All these children were dread Halloween, and we were up on the roof about 30 feet up in the air putting on sheets of plywood. And this group of kids runs out in these little traffic safety cones, and these of them had vests, like reflective vests, and they're wearing the hard hat, and they're like, "We're here to help you," and they were taking pictures for the yearbook or whatever for Halloween, and it was funny. And they were like, "Wave," and they were just on there taking their selfies. I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And even have his, I put my safety glasses on, I had my hard hat, but Foreman didn't even have his fucking hard hat on. Oh man, shit was funny. Pardon me, but Life is crazy and it's beautiful. Don't ever let anyone convince you that the world is dark and evil, because there's a basic goodness to everything. And I truly mean that. Every darkness and difficulty that I've ever gone through, I've come out better on the other side, and I've become stronger and more wise and more mature. And that's really what's happening to a lot of people, is they're getting a good dose of Saturnian energy. It's the evolution of what has to happen in change and growth. And this is what has to happen. This is what has to be. This is really what we have sown. This is really the world that we're going into. This is really what the world is. But it's not to be faced with fear and doubt and depression and misery. And the best thing is once America wakes up, once the world wakes up, when we realize that we all have the power to support each other without any legislative blockages, because we've all been turned against each other. This is a dysfunctional family. And I've heard it so many times. Secession. America wants a divorce. How do you succeed from the Union? That's where the Civil War came from in America. Everyone believes it was about slavery. But if you diligently look back with an open mind, you can find out that it wasn't just about slaves and slavery. It was more about the southern states wanting to leave the Confederation, because we weren't a United States, we were Confederate states, state system before the Civil War. And we were started out as violent revolutionaries when violence was necessary. Violence is not necessary anymore. It's a metaphysical violence. And that is why I usually put meta mind and meta military, because we have to go beyond the mind. We have to go a war on the soul, a war on the psyche. That's why right now the strongest people are standing up and speaking out, willing to step up and deliver a more positive message to the masses. And I hope to be counted amongst them. That's just my ego talking. But really, right now is the time. It's the most opportune time. There's never going to be a better moment than now. And that is really what it's about, is seizing the moment, grasping the fruit of awareness, the boundless nature of presence. It's something that, we all need to practice more. We all need to practice presence. Practice presence. That's a good one. Here's another good one. There's another good one. It's something I thought the other day, and it's the world is 90% psychology. I mean, it really is. And if you look at the word psych, it means soul in Greek. So what I'm saying is the world is 90% soul. It's 90% what's in your head. Everything else is like 90% of how you react to the world. That's another one. Life is 90% reaction. 10% happens to you, and 90% of it is how you react to it. Because really, we have more control than we're led to believe. And that is the craziest thing, is that the power of the people is incredible. People are a resource. I've been saying it for a while now that the different nation states are just borders of farms. These are all people farms, and the people are enslaved to the ego and debt and their identity and their emotions and just very insecure things. And in reality, I don't really believe there's any kind of thing. It's a very rhythmic reality that we live in. And it is up to us to learn of our own, the biorhythms of nature, and to start moving in harmony with that. Recognize when you have your astrological movements. Recognize when the seasons change. Recognize what it is time for. It is time for questioning who you believe you are and what you believe is important. Question your own motives and your own drive. Question yourself, and you'll know everything. It is inscribed on the Oracle of Delphi's entrance. She lived in a cave, or she did her soothsaying, for lack of a better word, inside of a cave. And it said above the entrance, "Man, know thyself, and you will know the because, as they always say, as above, so below. What's in your head is what you manifest into reality. What you believe and what you perceive, what it is. It's a strange world, but we do have the power, and that's really what the message is that they try to flip the burden onto us and make us believe that we are weak and feeble. We're all a seed of pure consciousness. We are a spark of that. It's just up to us to grow that spark of divinity and consciousness. It's up to us to cultivate the tree of life, perhaps. I'm pointing to the tree of life over here. Not all the cameras can see it. It was just very strange to find that in the 36 Faces book. The symbol of disease, virus. I'd like to say welcome to Scorpio season. And everyone, colder months and the shorter days of the year. There's nothing to fear. It's just going to get cold and dark. And it's up to us to prepare. If you haven't prepared yet, you better get your ducks in a row. Have some food and some water. Have a good holiday. Oh, man. So the astrological climate is pretty interesting because we had this grand conjunction just at the beginning of this year or the end of last year, depending on which way you look at it. But it's a pretty amazing time to live in because people don't realize that we're going through two simultaneous revolutions: an industrial revolution 4.0, the Internet of Things, if you will, and we're going through a biotech revolution where man is starting to merge with machine. As you can see, I have numerous screens and numerous devices, and these devices are the most divisive thing that we really have to be aware of in our relationship with, because these portals, these windows are taking our life from us, from many of us, because most people are consuming unhealthy digital substances and creating this dopamine driven screen time addiction, fantasy world, reality, identity. And it's creating a very dark subconscious ego. That's why this 2020 and beyond is a whole new, like, 2020. Hindsight is 2020. I know you guys have heard that one, right? All right. So it looks like we have Mars going into Scorpio within a few hours, perhaps. It's Mars is at the 29th degree of Libra. And, well, what that means is something different for everybody, right? Right, because Mars is in a different part of your actual chart. So what is that going to tell you? You got to look at your chart. If you want to learn about astrology, you got to study it yourself. But what I will tell you is that Mars represents it does represent action. It represents how you take action. It's your force of will. It's also a masculine, male energy, and it can represent men in your life. But interestingly enough, Mars is actually pretty well placed in Scorpio, because Aries and Scorpio were both co-ruled by Mars. The ancient astrologers gave Mars dominion over the signs of Aries and Scorpio. But the energy of Mars when it's in Scorpio is not so overt as it is with Aries. It's a more subtle energy. It's more controlled and compared to Aries is, like, very explosive and aggressive. This energy is calculating and very subtle. It would be like a ninja versus a samurai, perhaps. We have a opposition between Jupiter and the moon. Pretty interesting, right? And another opposition to the sun and Uranus. So what these oppositions mean is that there's a lot of tension between the archetypes. And I'm not going to go into all the archetypes and break everything down, but what I will say is right now, things are shifting very quickly at rap speed, like breakneck, very intense energy right now. And the things that are happening astrologically for America are crazy because we're having a Pluto return. And usually when nations have their Pluto return, there's a revolution. Or in this case, a war, because the last war, Civil War, was in Pluto's ingress into Aquarius. Anyways, guys, that's about all I have for tonight. Succinct information to portray, and it's just been kind of me getting on and sharing my thoughts. Oh man, Steven said he gets super depressed. Oh fuck. What's up, Steven? Yeah, it's just because there's less sunlight, I heard people get seasonal depression, and I don't know, I struggle with depression all the time. but it's part of being alive, right? But it's a choice, you know. We got to choose our mental health, and you know, we got to start substituting these pharmaceuticals and these substances with healthy alternatives. I'm all about homeopathy, not allopathy. Anyways, share this video if you guys think I had anything valuable to say. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, subscribe, unlike, unsubscribe. Be truthful. That's all I ask. My name's Root. I hope I brought you the truth. Or I hope you had something to gain from that. Anyways, I'm going to bed. Good night, y'all. God bless you. Have a wonderful night.